On 22 of May of 1945, an Allied patrol saw three men with a very strange appearance near a monitoring spot in the north of Germany, one of them with a patch on his eye. It was about three German soldiers, who had given their documents, in which ones were enumerated their name, rank and birthdate, and other kind of information. The paper of one of these notified that it held the rank of sergeant and his name was Heinrich Himmler. In the paper of Himmler there was an official seal that the Allied military intelligence had seen used by members of the SS that were trying to escape. Immediately, the three men were arrested and were taken to a British detention camp. When Himmler started to being interrogated aroused some suspicions. His papers were totally in rule, something not much common for a German soldier in that circumstance. When the British official Thomas Sylvester continued with some more questions, bored, Himmler removed his eye patch, put on glasses and revealed his real identity, the Reichsfuhrer of the SS Heinrich Himmler. It's possible to make 2 or 3 videos when talking about the life of Heinrich Himmler, but the title of this one say the last days, so let us start since the 25 of January of 1945. In that moment, without any type of previous military experience, Hitler named Himmler as Major-in-Chief of the group of armies of the Vistula. On this appointment the German General Heinz Guderian referred as one of the biggest nonsense of Hitler, and Guderian wasn't wrong. It's supposed that without military experience and commanding of big armies, Himmler has to stop the Soviet offensive that had been developing and threaten the German border. Think that Himmler could stop the Russians, having in mind that German generals and marshals quite competent couldn't do it in 1943 and 1944, with more resources and soldiers. Just led us to think that the appointment of chief for the groups of the army weren't because of the capacity as a strategist or tactician anymore, but by the loyalty which they can show to the Führer. In that way, knowing the low capacity of the leader of the SS, Guderian suggested him to choose Walther Wenck as his chief of staff. When the General Guderian visited the general headquarters of Himmler, which had been established in his private train, he realized that he only had one phone line, inadequate maps, and didn't have detachments of signals or radio equipment to establish communication and transmit military orders to their army commanders or divisions. In addition, he only worked 4 hours a day. You imagine Berlin is within reach of the Russians, and you are going to work just 4 hours a day being the chief of the group of armies that is supposed to stop them. The Colonel Hans Eismann, who worked directly with Himmler, defined him on this way. Hearing him talking about military strategy, flank ruptures, and counterattacks was the same as hearing a blind talking about colors. As it was obvious, Himmler couldn't change in absolutely the situation of the Eastern Front. In fact, he caused a huge argument between Hitler and Guderian that had almost caused a heart attack to the first because of the anger. The adventure of the Reichsfuhrer of the SS as chief of an army group finished the 20th of May of 1945 when the German leader dismissed him. Once on April of 1945 the result of the war was unquestionable. Germany would lose. Himmler thought that he was the right man to negotiate peace with the Allies, so he had conversations with the Count Folke Bernadotte, who was president of the Swedish Red Cross. On the 20th of April, when Hitler turned to 56 years old, he and Himmler met for the last time. The leader of the SS swore loyalty to him again, and later left the city to meet the Count Bernadotte the next day. Count took Norbert Masser, an important member of the World Jewish Congress, with him and a secret meeting with Himmler. As a result of this meeting, more than 20,000 Jewish prisoners were liberated from various concentration camps. But don't believe that this was an act of good faith. Himmler's idea was that through Masser and the Count he could arrange a meeting with General Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied forces. On April 23, Himmler and Bernadotte met again in Lübeck. The first was already aware of the Führer's decision of dying in Berlin, so he was determined to take his place, and negotiations finally began. The SS leader asked the Count to contact the Allies in order to reach a ceasefire on the Western Front. For that he wrote an announcement. Himmler was so sure that Eisenhower would negotiate with him that his main concern was whether he should greet the North American general with the military greeting or the Nazi one. On 28th of April, and due to an announcement from Radio Estocolmo, the Führer realized that Himmler had made contact with the Allies. Hitler was furious to learn that the loyal Heinrich was betraying him. A few hours later the news was confirmed by the Chancellery press attaché. Himmler was relieved of his rank as SS leader, expelled from the Nazi party, and ordered to be arrested immediately. His assistant Hermann Fegelein was executed. On 6th of May, with the death of the Germany's leader, Himmler met with the new Führer, Admiral Karl Donitz, and asked for a position in the new government of Flensburgo. The request was rejected and Donitz began contacts with the Allies. 2 days later, Germany surrendered unconditionally. As being the Nazi leader most wanted by the Allies, Himmler usurped the identity of Heinrich Himmler, a sergeant who had been executed for desertion. In addition to this, he changed his appearance, wearing a black eye patch, shaved his head and his characteristic mustache. Himmler wandered around northern Germany until he and his 2 companions were arrested on 22 May of 1945. He was taken to a detention camp where he revealed his real identity. Obviously, the interrogation team did not immediately believe that they were dealing with Reichsfuhrer of the SS. They subjected him to different questions, such as his year of party membership, his SS registration number, and other questions about his functions in the defeated German government. Finished the interrogation and confirmed that they had Himmler, he required to speak to General Eisenhower or Marshal Montgomery, but he was sent to a military doctor, the Captain Wells, who examined him. Himmler was forced to undress and the doctor searched for any object with which he could commit suicide. When Dr. Wells searched into his mouth, he saw that there was something strange inside, so he put his hand into Himmler's mouth, who, shocked for this, bit the doctor's hand and with it the object that was inside his mouth, a cyanide capsule. Himmler fell to the ground. The soldiers that were there did everything they could to prevent his death. They induced him to vomit, made him a gastric lavage, but it was useless. Himmler had died at the age of 45. This is how the life of the maximum leader of the SS ended, a man who were in charge of many important positions in the German government and who had under his command more than 1 million soldiers men in the SS. Thanks for watching the video. If you are interested about the Second World War, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I upload new videos every week.